Conference championship weekend around the NFL, and with two games between four teams hoping for two spots in New Orleans, there are so many Sunday specials to dive through. And not just to find a nice plus money price, but also how we see these games playing out in the individuals that will dictate what we witness this weekend. DRS most passing yards between the four quarterbacks in our two matchups come Sunday. Mahomes has the highest passing yards prop of 249.5. Both Josh Allen and Jayden Daniels kind of around the same number, 223 and a hook right now for Washington's rookie, 230.5 for Buffalo signal caller. Of course, we have talked about Jalen Hurts, and based maybe on the knee ailment, only 179 and a hook. If you had to look at one of those quarterbacks to throw for the most yards come Sunday afternoon, who would you wager on?
You're probably, Patrick Mahomes rightfully so at the plus 130 because he's going against a defense that could probably get after that secondary. But the same thing, it's a shame that Jalen Hurts is a little bit banged up. Let's just say he comes in full throttle with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith on the outside, and now you also have a defense that's trying to stop Saquon Barkley. That is a monster price at $750. And we're not understanding that one of these games is like college football. Like, hey, we're supposed to get 800 plus yards of offense. They're going to throw it all around the lot. Yeah. Is it going to be a surprise if 275 yards possibly wins it this weekend between these two football games as the leader? Hurts can get that at plus 750. Would I bet it? No, because I don't think that's the MO for their success here. But if you're taking a look at just game script themselves, we understand the Eagles have the best secondary in football. It's hard to throw on them. But if you are the Philadelphia Eagles up double digits in the second half, and you say, wow, Daniel's going to throw the football 45 plus times, that's not a bad price at plus 260. And the same way you look at Josh Allen, where you're saying, okay, Kansas City's got a great defense, but if they're down double digits in the second half, Josh Allen goes from 28 pass attempts to 38 pass attempts. It does make some sense. I understand, as I said, where Mahomes is plus 130. That's not where I look. If you said, Donnie, give me the two bets that you would rather take. I'm not taking Mahomes. I'm not taking Hurts. It would be between Josh Allen and Jayden Daniels because I think the game script will allow them to throw more than the two other quarterbacks.
And I think that's a natural thought, of course. Jayden Daniels is the largest underdog of this weekend. His team is catching 6.5 points. Sure, he has overcome the odds throughout his rookie season to win games outright as a dog in both of his first two career NFL playoff matchups on the road. But when you look at his number, Donnie, if the Eagles are going to be in full command, I don't think it's a shootout. I don't think they are going score for score on either side. I think it is that Philly defense winning the day in containing the sensational rookie on his historic run. I do believe Josh Allen makes some sense because if you believe, like a lot of the public does, that Buffalo is finally the team and is the time right now able to knock Kansas City off of the mountain atop the AFC, Josh Allen needs to have a career day where he throws for $127 like last week against Baltimore, and the Bills win that turnover margin 3-0. That's probably not how this game plays out. 275 for Josh Allen through the air, 50 rushing yards, and they contain Kansas City enough on that side of the football. To me, that's the picture for Buffalo. So that would be the way I would bet this, although I do think Patrick Mahomes has a big day against the Buffalo Bills. Let's talk about most rushing yards. And of course, Donnie, when your prop is 125 and a hook and nobody else has a rushing yards prop north of 60, you're going to be a hefty favorite to have the most rushing yards of the weekend at minus 310. So let's basically say Saquon Barkley versus the field. Is there any chance come this weekend Saquon Barkley does not end up with the most individual rushing yards of the conference championships?
Probably just by injury, and that's a horrible way to bet. Say, I'm just going to fade him because he might get injured at that point, but that's where his number is listed at a minus 310 price in a football game. That's not like saying, hey, it's a basketball game. I have one game to play. I just need my guy to get like 20 points when he averages 30, and it's an easy layup. Understand that. There is a chance you can get injured. We're not expecting it, but I'm not laying a minus 310 price point. I'll tell you who I would bet. It's not Cook at 10-1. It's not going to be Daniels at 11-1. It's not even going to be Josh Allen at 16-1. Brian Robinson Jr. 23-1. Because if you do have one of those game scripts, which you saw last week, where you control the tempo, you're saying, you know what, we're going to use all three downs to get a first down, and on 4th and 1, I'm going to run my quarterback around the edge to get 2 yards and continue that. Let's just say Brian Robinson Jr. can hit a home run, because the one thing we did see last week, and I understand it was snowy, Kyron Robinson had limited carries and a lot of yards. And when we're talking about Brian Robinson Jr., if their game script is correct and they have a lead, why can't he approach 75-plus yards in this game, which will put you in the ballpark? And normally you wouldn't say, like, well, why would you do that? It's 23-1. It's not 2-1. It's not 3-1. It's 23-1.
And he had 15 carries for 77 yards and 2 scores last week against Detroit. Kyron Williams, 19 carries, $104 against the Birds. By the way, Matthew Stafford did end up throwing for 324 yards. That could be another way of looking at Jayden Daniels leading conference championship weekend in passing yards if the Commanders are trailing for a majority of those final 2 quarters. Most receiving yards of the weekend, Travis Kelce, the shortest number at plus 420. Terry McLaurin barely back. A.J. Brown at a 5-1 price. Just 3 grabs for 24 yards for A.J. Brown in the first 2 games, DRS, for Philadelphia in this postseason.
Yeah, you look at that, and you would normally think it's Kelce, but doesn't it feel like there's like a ceiling on Kelce? Like he's going to hit that number, but maybe 80 yards, maybe 90 yards at the top. Oh, Donnie, just went over. I understand that. But I'm just saying like what that focal point is. You want to look at the ceiling of players. And A.J. Brown, who can absolutely eat, which might only need 4 catches to get 110 yards in that direction, that's a nice price point at 5-1. Shakir, who have his advantages, Worthy, there's too many, like, let's just say, fish in the pond on that team to actually try to say, yeah, this guy's going to get 8 or 9 targets alone. But I could see A.J. Brown with a 8 to 9 target day when you know he's about the big play and he says he's finally healthy and ready to go. That's where I would look at here. Give me that nice 5-1 price on A.J. Brown with a couple big catches.
I agree as well. If you want a longer shot, not listed in those top 5 numbers, De'Ami Brown at 14-1 for the Commanders. 89 receiving yards in the opening game against Tampa, 98 last week against the Lions. The guy has come on incredibly strong for this Commanders passing attack if you wanted a little bit of value. Right, now time for the Pick 6 for Conference Championship Sunday in the NFL. 2 games, 4 teams, 2 spots at stake in New Orleans for Super Bowl 59. A slightly different Pick 6 as we kind of move things around a little bit. Still a touchdown score, still our favorite yardage prop, still our favorite under of the weekend, an alt line with a sprinkle of plus money, but then an exact score prediction for both the AFC and NFC Championship games. Donnie, right side, let's start with the guy you think is going to hit Pater. Who was your favorite anytime touchdown scorer of championship weekend?
A lot of really good players to choose from. A lot of guys you figure are going to be getting the football here in the red zone, but sometimes you have to look at price point. If you were to ask me who's the favorite one to get in, most people just say Saquon Barkley. Yeah, he's minus 310 and plus, depending where you're shopping and including the FanDuel Sportsbook. For me, it was simple. Opportunities inside the red zone, I think it's going to be Josh Allen. He was a plus 100 just a few days ago. He's now a minus 110. I still like that price point. If the Buffalo Bills will be competitive and look to win this football game, they're going to score some rushing touchdowns, and one of those rushing touchdowns going to be from Josh Allen. Give me him at minus 110.
2 rushing touchdowns last week against Baltimore. 2 rushing touchdowns in the divisional round a year ago against Kansas City. At least 68 rushing yards in all 3 playoff matchups against the Chiefs. I do believe he is going to utilize his legs as well. We talked about A.J. Brown just a little bit ago. 3 grabs on 10 targets. That's it for 24 yards so far in the 2 playoff victories for Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts' mobility and his effectiveness is going to be a huge storyline to monitor for Sunday in Philly. But I think he's going to be at least more mobile in the pocket, and Philly is going to air the football more than we expect. A.J. Brown, anytime touchdown to get back into the good graces of the offense in Philly, putting down inner excellence and finding the end zone at a plus 140 price. DRS favorite yardage prop of the weekend is who and in which game?
Buying extremely low at this point. DeAndre Hopkins, you take a look at him at the FanDuel Sportsbook, 24.5, had a terrible game last week. This is what we call buying low. If he was 89, 90 yards last week, oh, look at that. He's going to pay a premium. You're not going to do this here. You are going to have to throw the football against the Buffalo Bills, and if you're expecting close to 50 points, you must engage the Buffalo Bills, which means on the outside. We're not asking for a lot of yards. Heck, that might be 2 catches alone here. DeAndre Hopkins, look at the way he's performed throughout the season for Kansas City. He's always right in that range, if not going over. I believe at one point, either 9 of 10 games or 10 of 11, having at least 20-plus yards receiving. I'll take him over 24.5 receiving yards. That's a low bar to clear, and I think he clears it.
Plays perfectly into my favorite yardage prop, which is KC's quarterback, of course, Patrick Mahomes. Over 249.5 passing yards. I'll give you the stats and the sample size and the reasons why based on history with more history at stake. It's the Conference Championship Pick6 next. We continue our Conference Championship Sunday Pick6 live right here on the early line on Sports Grid. DRS, you mentioned DeAndre Hopkins, over 24.5, a buy low spot on a consistent wideout for Kansas City. It goes hand in hand with my favorite yardage prop of the weekend as well. Patrick Mahomes, over 249.5 passing yards. There is an idea that this Chiefs team is not exactly the one we have seen as of late, and I understand that. Not overwhelming on the offensive side of the football. Just 177 yards for Mahomes last week against Houston. But look at what he has done in AFC Championship games of old. Last year, 241. The only time he did not throw for at least 294 yards in his AFC Championship game life. And that features 5 previous games even before a season ago. Make it all 7 years he has been the starter, starting said AFC Championship game. I think he goes over this number. I think we see some offense on Sunday in Arrowhead, and I think Patrick Mahomes is a big reason why Kansas City gets back to a 3rd consecutive Super Bowl, but we'll talk about those final score predictions in just a little bit. I found it difficult, DRS, to find an under that I truly loved this weekend. Where did you go?
I went with a kicker, and I went with the narrative that you must be aggressive, be aggressive. You ever hear that chant on the sideline there from the cheerleaders? Yeah, they'll chant that out there. Tyler Bass, we don't need you to be aggressive this weekend. Under 6.5 kicking points, which means 2 field goals and 1 extra point would go over. But I'm playing this as we ain't settling for field goals if we're the Buffalo Bills. Sure, maybe a 51-yarder because we're not close to the end zone. If the Buffalo Bills get to the red zone with Josh Allen in 4th and short, and when I say short, 4th and 3 or less, they're going for it here. No doubt in my mind. If you want to slay that dragon that Kansas City is, kicking field goals isn't going to get it done. How about Tyler Bass under 6.5 kicking points for the Buffalo Bills?
I think it's a great look, DRS. A guy that has struggled at times, but has been pretty good here throughout this postseason run for Buffalo. But I would agree. I think you have to be aggressive. There is some thought that the Chiefs can't give you the offensive onslaught as in years past. So just keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. I think we have learned that the best guideline to beating Kansas City year over year, season over season, game over game in the most significant of them is outscore and outpace KC. Play from in front, and maybe the Chiefs are going to struggle to keep up. My favorite under, and again, it's not a favorite under, but it's the under in the second half between the Commanders and the Eagles of 23 and a hook. I don't think this is a dead under 17-14 game. But I do think the Eagles will be in command. Yes, I guess, pun intended. And I do think Philadelphia limits what Jayden Daniels does offensively. And I think that will come to a close in the second 2 quarters. I actually do think it could be tight early. I think the Eagles start to extend late. And I do not think we see the uneasy final 5 minutes against Washington as we did last week against L.A. I'll go under 23.5 in the second half of that NFC Championship game. Alt line, who are you looking at?
It was either between A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, 1 catch for 30 yards, so the price point was a little bit better for Devontae Smith, so I went that way at a plus 280 price. He's done that 4 times this year already, and once again, you're trying to bet into the game script, not just because you like a player, thinks he might be able to get open deep. If you're selling out to stop the run and conditions are good for passing, which they will be in Philadelphia, the play-action pass could be huge. 1 catch for at least 30 yards for Devontae Smith at a plus 280 price.
Donnie, I would love if, as you kind of predicted or alluded to, that early in the game, Philly goes, all right, you don't think Jalen Hurts is fully healthy? Watch this. Bomb. First play. Right there. Devontae Smith, and I bet Jalen Hurts over his passing yards number. That seems minimal at 179.5. I'm going to go alt line Saquon Barkley, 175 rushing plus receiving at a plus 220 number. Donnie, I don't think you should bet an under on Saquon Barkley's rushing yards prop this week. And if you are going to look at the over, 150 plus on the ground for Saquon is plus 180. But the reason I want to add up rushing plus receiving is I do agree that Saquon Barkley is going to be a factor in terms of what they do offensively. Even if Jalen Hurts is healthier than we estimate, it's not like Saquon Barkley is going to have 14 touches in the game. He's going to flirt with 30, as he did last week in the division round against LA, went well over these numbers of 175 plus. In week number 16 against the Commanders, he didn't have any receiving yards, had 150 on the ground. In week number 11, big play Barkley for sure, 198 scrimmage yards. He's going to factor into this NFC Championship game, especially if Philly is about to head to New Orleans for a Super Bowl 59 bid. Saquon Barkley, 175 plus, rushing plus receiving at a plus 220 number. All right, final score prediction time, DRS. Let's start in the AFC. AFC Championship game in Arrowhead. The Chiefs, an ever so slight favorite by 26 cents on the money line, and a total of 48.5 now. Who wins? The score.
It's the home of the Chiefs. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, 27-24. Game probably goes over the total, stays right around that number. But in the end, Kansas City will prevail because they are at home. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have Andy Reid. That's where I went.
All right, NFC Championship game from you as well as we send you into the money line in just a little bit. Will your Birds join you in the Big Easy with a Super Bowl Lombardi trophy at stake?
I think it'll be a good game here. It'll be right around that number. And how about this? The Philadelphia Eagles, 27. The Washington Commanders, 21. So if you're betting a team total for the Commanders, you cash in. And right now at the FanDuel Sportsbook, if you're betting the Commanders, you cover your spread. Everybody wins. Eagles win. You win your bet, but the Eagles move on. Like, nobody loses. Nobody.
27-21 and slightly over our total on Sunday in Philadelphia of 47 and a hug. You will see Donnie Rightside. There is no doubt about it. Come Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, a slightly earlier start for Pro Football Today on Conference Championship weekend alongside Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi. DRS, have a ton of fun on Sunday. We'll talk to you very soon.
Yeah, we're going to find out if Joe Lisi is able to make it to that Sunday. And also, the bigger question is Kevin going to show up for work today on Moneyline? If he doesn't, I'll hold it down. We'll have a power hour like you've never seen before. But the questions are there. Will Kevin be there? We'll find out.
11 a.m. on Sports Grid Radio. We end out the early line next. One last segment here this week on the early line to set the stage for Conference Championship Sunday in the National Football League. 2 games on Sunday. Kicking at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, it's our first matchup in the NFC Championship game between 2 divisional foes from the NFC East, the Eagles and the Commanders. Philadelphia, 6.5-point favorite, total at 47.5. And then, of course, we go to our nightcap inside Arrowhead Stadium. A familiar scene, a familiar matchup. The Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, for a 4th time in the last 5 NFL postseasons, squaring off against one another, this time for a berth in Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. A 1.5 spread in favor of KC. Now minus 122 on the money line. That is it. We are talking a quarter and then a penny of difference between those two prices on the money line. For who is expected to win this game outright, the total stands at 48.5. Donnie gave you his final score predictions in that NFL Conference Championship weekend, Pick 6. I will now do the same. Donnie and I, very similar numbers. And as Donnie alluded to, and I will back up, I do believe Kansas City wins this game outright 28-24. I think it is great. I think it will be a playoff game that lives in the history and the lore of NFL postseason action, just like we have seen numerous times between the Bills and the Chiefs in the 3 previous matchups in the past 4 seasons. But ultimately, until somebody knocks Kansas City off that perch, I am not going to bet that somebody does it. Could Buffalo? Sure. But not just based on what KC has done in its own pedigree. 7 consecutive AFC Championship game appearances. 6 of them at home in Kansas City. 4 Super Bowl bids. 3 Lombardi trophies, including the last 2 back-to-back. Kansas City is the team that looks completely different in every playoff game than anything we have seen throughout the regular season. And the Bills have the regular season number of the Chiefs. Kansas City, as you saw, that playoff number, the more important number in front of Buffalo. KC 28-24 in a game that I think features some more scoring than that total predicts at 48.5. I've already told you I think Patrick Mahomes and his passing yards prop, as you see there, is a big reason why. 249 and a hook. So what about the prediction for the first game of two on Sunday in the NFC title matchup? Jayden Daniels is not a rookie. Jayden Daniels and the Commanders are not a feel-good story, albeit unlikely that they are here. Washington is a bona fide contender. So when I tell you Philadelphia wins by double digits, it's not because I believe the Commanders are outclassed, just based on where they enter this matchup. I had Philadelphia to win the NFC before the year. I'm going to stick to my guns. The Eagles win by 10, 27-17. I do think the Commanders' historic run comes to a close. As history tells us, at a certain point, even if it has been dramatic and historic, a rookie quarterback in a conference championship game for the 6th time ever in NFL playoff history. That is Jayden Daniels. But no rookie quarterback has led his team to a Super Bowl appearance. I don't think Jayden Daniels is a disaster. I don't think the Commanders look awful come Sunday. I just think Philadelphia is better. And I think the Eagles' defense reminds us why. 27-17, the Eagles get theirs. Jalen Hurts plays very well, and I think looks better than we expect given that left knee injury. Saquon Barkley is a factor through the century mark for a third consecutive game this year against the Commanders and in the postseason. The Eagles' offense gives you enough, and the defense holds it down, especially in that second half. 27-17, Philadelphia wins. Fly, Eagles, fly to a Super Bowl bid in Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. I bet the Eagles at the end of the divisional round game on Saturday between the Commanders and the Lions to win a Super Bowl. They are now the favorites entering championship weekend. I bet the Chiefs, as they were taking on the Texans last week, to win an AFC Championship. Still believing that KC would host an AFC title game, and that is what we have. KC wins 28-24 in that AFC Championship game. The nightcap on Sunday. The Eagles win comfortably 27-17 on Sunday. I think it is a great day of football, and I think it will set up a sensational Super Bowl matchup. I know one the public does not want to see, as it would be a rematch from just 2 years prior in Super Bowl 57, but it should be a good one nonetheless. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all the football. The early line returns Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern, here on SportsGrid.